Welcome back to the Trend Report podcast, everyone. My name is Trevor Block. For those of you that don't know, I've been taking over the podcast for the month of March, talking to the next generation and their perspectives within the industry. And so today, I have Justin Wendholt. How are you doing today, Justin?
I'm well, Trevor. How are you?
I'm doing good. Well, thank you so much for spending some time to join me. I really appreciate your time and excited for the conversation.
Yeah, likewise.
So just before we jump into the conversation today, would you mind just doing a brief introduction, a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Sure. So I'm Justin Wendholt, and it's a pleasure to be on here with you guys. I am the current president of Stemle and Associates. I've been with Stemle since November of 2020 and came on board. I had been talking with the previous owner a little bit about becoming a rep, and then he had been looking for somebody to buy his business. So one thing led to another, and here I am.
Well, thank you. So could you tell us a little bit about kind of your journey through the industry? So where you started, some of the challenges, some of the opportunities that came across, and then pretty much what got you into the position that you're into today?
Yeah, sure. So I graduated from Purdue University in Northern Indiana in 2014. And then my first job out of Purdue was a sales associate position with Masterbrain Cabinets. So I was selling to retail stores cabinetry. It was a really great position. My territory was the Northeast. So a Midwestern guy got to go out from his comfort zone and get to a new cultured area. And it was really good for me. From there, I kind of evolved like my strategy in terms of sales and how I deemed myself a successful salesperson. But my girlfriend at the time, now wife, kind of told me, "Hey, I'm moving back home with or without you." And I was like, "All right, I'm coming back home too." So from there, we knew some people with Lazy Boy Contract Furniture, and they were currently looking for somebody to help out with their sales division. So at the time, it was just one gentleman by the name of Richard Franey. He was kind of heading up the entire sales and marketing and really customer service division. So I came on board there in more of a managerial role, and that was new for me. Managing people as opposed to just strictly a territory was enticing, challenging. I took a lot of the things that I had generated from my sales experience and evolved it into managing people. But it was good, but it gave me my first taste of the contract furniture world, right? So I was there for about 5 years, and toward the end of my tenure there, I miss being out on the road. I miss being as customer facing as I was with my first position out of college. And I just saw the value in being out and about and talking to people about these lines. So I reached out to Steve Stemle, who was the current owner of Stemle and Associates, which was our rep group when we were working at Lazy Boy. And I basically just said, "Hey, listen, Steve, I really just want to get back out in the field. Is there any way you can just carve me out of territory?" Because I had no idea if he was even looking to hire another sales rep or anything along those lines. And he pretty much was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with you. So if that's what you want to do, I can certainly find a territory somewhere for you to, take over locally." But he said, I'm getting at the age where I'm really kind of wanting to retire. Is there any way you'd consider buying my rep group? I was like, I don't know, man. I'm 28. I don't even, the thoughts not even crossed my mind. So I said, "Well, listen, let's just sit down. Let's talk about it." And so we talked about it. We continued to talk about it. And I was familiar with the people, familiar with a lot of their lines, specifically Lazy Boy. And I said, "Why not? Let's take a chance. Let's do it." And so let's see, beginning of last month was 1 full year of ownership, and it's been great, man. I can't tell you how much I've enjoyed it. Every day is a new challenge. I feel like I'm moving a million miles a minute. The days go by so fast, but it's been great, and I really wouldn't change it for the world right now.
See, that's really cool because throughout these conversations that we've had, we've been talking about kind of the rise of the next generation coming in. You're kind of the front poster boy of, some of the opportunities that are arising for the next generation coming in. So when you took over the rep group, what were some of the challenges that you faced and some of the things that you had to overcome, kind of not having as much experience as some of the people that you were alongside with? So what were some of those challenges and what were some of the things that you were able to create into opportunities?
The biggest thing is, I came into the group and we had 8 or 9 people, 3 inside people, and then I think at the time 5 outside salespeople, and everyone in the group had more experience than I did, both, in workforce in general and in the industry. So it would be natural for them to be like, well, okay, hold on. This young kid's coming in here. He's going to buy the rep group. A, does he even know what he's doing? And B, what is he going to change? So my philosophy from the beginning of managing somebody or a group of people is to be as transparent as possible, like immediately open all lines of communication in both ways. Because I feel like that's how you get on the fast track to generating a good relationship with somebody, specifically a working relationship. So I really just took the time to sit down with as many people on our team as possible for as long as possible and told them, exactly what I understood to be how we were going to run this thing, what I was going to change, what I wasn't going to change. And then I really left the floor open for them to say, we are going through a change organizationally. Is there anything you want to see changed? Is there anything you liked about what, how Steve managed the company, what you didn't like? Let's talk about it. Are there any pain points that you have? Is there anything that you don't want to see that I, change? So from there, that really, I feel like that gave everybody kind of a breath and said, okay, he's not going to come in here and flip everything upside down. He's just, taking advantage of an opportunity, and we're going to experience some growth and some change, but it's going to be all for the better. And if you don't feel that way, then say something, because I want to hear it.
I love that kind of bringing everyone in open book, making sure that you're open to changes and adapting to every single person within the company. I find that is an interesting approach, and especially over the past 2 years of being flexible is something that this industry has really started to embrace. And I think it's also created a lot of opportunities too. And this is something that I feel like comes up in a lot of these conversations, but the flexibility of our industry expands it to a lot more prospects for coming in. And we'll talk about that kind of a little bit as we move forward here. When you were taking over the rep group, did anyone challenge any of the ideas that you had or challenge any of the kind of visions that you had for the company?
Well, fortunately, I haven't changed all that much at this point, just because I'm very much the mindset that when you go through an organization change, like a new owner, that you can take things slow at first and kind of get everybody on the same board before you make some bigger changes. But yeah, with everything, you've got procedures in place and how you record things or how you track things, or, just general procedures. And fortunately for me, I've got 3 of some of the best customer service people in the industry, in my opinion, that work for me inside here. And anytime I would bring up a change, they are so honest. And I mean that in the in the best way possible about, why they like it or why they don't like it, or this is how we've done it in the past. This is why it was easiest. This is why I don't like how you're changing things. It's going to create more work for me. So yeah, fortunately for me and anybody who works in sales, typically you work with a lot of type A personalities. So there's never been anyone that I've worked with in Stemle that's been bashful and saying, I don't like that, or I do like that. So that's just all good. And I think that begins with the open lines of communication, like I talked about earlier, from day one, saying, if you don't like something, say something. And they've been very much to do so with just that ideology.
I like that. If you don't like something, say something. That's an easy way to kind of develop internally, especially no matter what the company is.
Yeah.
And so we've started talking a little bit about, changes generally from the rep group, but I want to kind of zoom out the perspective a little bit more and just look at the industry as a whole. So what are some of the changes that you'd like to see occur within the future of our industry?
Well, I think number one is just understanding that you have to continually change. So an open mindset of continually adapting, especially in the way that we work. We talked about flexibility before, and I'd like to understand a little bit more how, sometimes the industry wants to work. So what I've found, especially in the hiring process of bringing somebody on or talking to somebody about potentially hiring, is understanding how somebody wants to work within their lifestyles. And I think the industry as a whole is doing a good job of this because COVID's presented that opportunity. But thinking outside the box on how a workday looks for your employee, especially people with kids, people with hobbies, people that just have that have life outside of their job, and what that alludes to. If you think about it, how much time do if you have an office job or if you report somewhere, how much time out of your life is reporting to that place, right? And so, is it gonna better somebody's quality of life if you let them come in an hour later and stay an hour later, or take a longer lunch, or if you know that it works out for them to answer emails after they put their kids to bed? Open that line of communication. I think ultimately that's going to help us retain a lot more people, and keep a lot of happier employees too. So, that's just something that I would challenge all business owners or managerial level people to think about, how you can allow your employees to work that's outside of the normal 9 to 5.
Yeah, and it's funny that we're talking about this because it's something that's coming up in a lot of these conversations is the flexibility of the hybrid work model not only kind of empowers your team to be a little bit more flexible with how they want to work, but it empowers the people coming into our industry as well. Not
Yeah.
everyone can be in an office 5 days a week. Not everyone wants to be at home 5 days a week, but there's a little bit of that flexibility, and it creates a huge opportunity for kind of the next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the hiring and bringing people in. And it's really cool to see our industry adapting to these changes and turning them into different ways to collect talent, retain talent, and kind of disperse them back amongst the industry. So it's been a very interesting kind of change over the past 2 years. And one of the common things that I hear is that this industry's seen more change over the past 2 years than the past 10 and 15. And I know for all the listeners, you've heard that you say that before, but it's something that just keeps on coming up. So I want to kind of look a little bit more into the hiring side of things. Obviously, hiring is one of the highest needs in our industry right now. And that's kind of the value of these conversations that we're having with the next generation. But for someone joining the industry, what would be a tip of advice that you'd give them? And then just to kind of follow up to that question, what are some of the hiring practices that you're doing that you've seen some success on as well?
Well, in response to your first question, if I had to give a piece of advice to anyone that's looking to enter into our industry, I would say, again, this is going to maybe sound like a broken record, but be very transparent as to what exactly you're looking for in your work schedule and how you want your quality of life to look, and make sure they understand what kind of hobbies and out of work things that you're involved in. You never want to run into a situation where you sign up for something and then you realize that it's going to affect you in your other aspects of life. So, don't be afraid to sit down in your first meeting and say, I've got these things going on that I don't want to change. And so I'm looking for my future employer to kind of work with me on those. And I think right now, most future employers, if they like the person, they like the conversation, they'll work around you like that. They will make it happen, especially if they think you're going to be a good employee and that it's going to take their productivity and their work output to the next level. They'll make it work for you. So again, communicate, transparency. Don't be afraid to tell people what you want. The second question was what again?
What are some of the things that you've been doing that you've seen some success on in terms of the hiring process?
Well, I mean, I don't know what you deem as successful for the hiring process. Obviously, if you've got an open position, filling it is the ultimate succession mark, if you will. But, and I don't know, I mean, I don't know if we're there yet, but for the most part, for me, it's just making sure everybody knows in my network that I'm hiring. Here's what I'm looking for. There is no conversation that I'm not willing to have. And I'll talk to anybody. And that's been my big thing right now with ownership recently, is just, I will talk to anyone about anything, because you never know what avenue it's going to take you down. I mean, whether it's an insurance agent that, is just trying to pitch me on something, who knows, they might know something that I don't. Or if it's somebody that's in a completely different industry, and they're just looking for a change and they responded to a job posting that I put on LinkedIn or Indeed or something like that, I'm going to have the conversation with them because they might have an idea that I think is going to work. Or they might have had something happen in their past where I want to listen to it, for purely an experience output. So yeah, I think that answered your question, right? I'm kind of
Yeah, it
rambling a
does.
little bit.
Yeah, the other thing too is, One of the things that Will and I spent some time talking about is the personalities that fit well within our industry. And the biggest thing that, we kind of discussed was if you find someone that's passionate and has the drive to succeed in this industry, they can fit into almost any role and they will follow and continue to try to build their business exactly how you see it going too. So
Yeah,
kind
no
of going
doubt.
back to the whole, sorry.
No, you're good. I believe full wholeheartedly in that too. If you've got the right person, you can train them. I mean, you can teach them your products that you want to sell, or you can teach them your processes and procedures in your dealership or your organization or whatever. If they're a good person, they want to willing to work and they have the drive, they will succeed. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and one of the common things that I hear in our industry that a normal onboarding process takes about 2 to 3 years just to understand how this industry works. If you got someone that's passionate and has got the drive and is extremely excited about the role, you can fast track that to a year and even faster depending on where their fit is. And so it's all about finding the right person and talking to the younger generation about this. It's a huge opportunity and it's also a huge need. So it's interesting to see the different approaches that everyone kind of wants to take, because it's one of the things, even talking before this, everyone's looking to hire, everyone's trying to figure out a way to make their company stand out. And there's definitely definitely a need for people, but I think the biggest thing goes back to awareness. What is this industry? What are some of the biggest opportunities? Why would someone want to stay in here? And obviously the first answer that comes to my mind is people.
Mhm.
People in this industry make it work. What would be the first thing that comes into your mind when promoting this industry?
Well, people's a really good one too, but I would just say opportunity for growth, especially for the youth, man. And I don't mean any offense to the people that have been in the generation or the industry for a while, but there's a age gap in my opinion. There's not, you don't see with the amount of people that you talk to every day, every week that are trying to get out, that have a 5-year plan to exit the industry and go into the next chapter of their life. There's a fraction of that number of people, it seems like, trying to get into the industry or that know anything about the industry. So, if you're looking for somebody or an opportunity, if someone's looking for an opportunity to work with an organization and have the ability to kind of grow, step up the ladder, or move into different avenues in the industry that's going to allow them to succeed, whether that's financially, professionally, whatever metric you use for growth in your life, this industry is going to offer a lot of it. I mean, so that would be number one, I would say.
Yeah, like I think that, identifying the opportunity and explaining directly to the new people of here's some of the different directions that you can go. And it's all about putting a plan together too. One of the things that after joining the industry, identifying the importance of a value proposition. So that way, if someone comes in and asks you, what do you do? What are some of your goals? What are some of the things there? Having a value prop that really answers, what the opportunity and what some of the biggest things you have planned for your time in the industry is something that really makes it important and really kind of sticks with the next generation coming in. When someone tells me exactly what their plan is for 5 years, that's going to be roaming around my head until the next time I talk to you.
No, you're right. Exactly right. Yeah, it's good to have the 3, 5, and 10-year plan. And it's good to
Absolutely.
understand that those don't always pan out and plans change. So don't feel bad if your 3-year goal turns into your 4-year goal or your 4-year goal. You figure it out in 2 years and you're moving. So you gotta adapt.
So I want to spend a little bit of time kind of going back to the rep group discussion. So kind of before we sat down for the podcast, you told me a little bit about some of the problems that are going on with rep group, some of the challenges, I'll say. And kind of the first one that came up was the availability of your customers. So could you talk a little bit about some of the approaches that you're taking just to get in front of them and different ways to kind of make an impact there?
Sure. Yeah. So backing up a little bit, like you said, the biggest challenge for us that has been for the past 24 months is just being able to get in front of your customer network. And for me, one of the biggest pillars of success for a salesperson is visibility. Like, do your customers know that you're out? Do they see you out? Do they know that you're available, accessible? Do they know that, that they can reach you at any given moment? Well, the old thinking of that was to hit the ground running, right? Go out and see as many of your customers as you can. Even if you don't have an appointment, pop in, update a library, shake a hand, drop a business card off, say, I'm just glad to see you. Let me know if you've got any opportunities I can work with you. Well, that doesn't always happen anymore. either the doors might be locked or you can't get past the front office lady, and that's okay. I mean, I understand why they're doing that. You know, you don't want to bring in too many outside people with everything going on. And so then you had the opportunities to do Zoom calls, and that was all fine and dandy for the first 3 to 6 months because you had stuff to talk about, right? But I think people just got stale to the fact that I don't want to sit on another 20 or 30-minute Zoom call when I got a million other things going on. I got my kids running around in the background. The laundry machine just went off. I got a spreadsheet that I'm working on my other screen, and I'm not paying any attention. So why am I even doing this anyway? So that's going kind of by the wayside too. So what we've really tried to do is expand on our marketing. And I think I've seen a lot of other rep groups do this too. You know, can you put out emails that have pertinent information, meaning like, do you have a quick ship program that's going to help somebody out? Are you putting out like all the price changes that are going on? Can you, like, we started a YouTube channel that we're just demoing product, which has been pretty efficient for us because, a lot of times you'll get a question like, hey, I have this quick need. Do you have this available in your product packages? You say, yeah. And you can send them a link on their website. Right. But then they're thinking, okay, but how does it work? How does it move? How does that piece of furniture lift or expand? Well, if I can send them a 30-second video of me actually doing the demonstration and talking through it, then it's almost as good as me being there in real life. So we've worked on that, and that's something that I actually took from my time over at Lazy Boy. That was something that we started at the beginning of COVID too, doing live demonstrations, webinars as we call them. And that's panned out pretty well for us too, and just increasing our social media platforms and our impact on socials as well. So you just try to think of creative ways. I can't tell you how much more I've used FaceTime on my iPhone with my customers, which has been kind of like, at first it was a little bit weird, if you will. And now I'm just totally like, I'm not even afraid to, if I'm texting or emailing with the customer and they've got a question on a product, I'll just FaceTime them. Hey, it's me. I'm sitting next to the piece of furniture that you're asking about. Do you mind if can I borrow 45 seconds of your time to go through it? I've never had anybody be like, no, that's just weird. Everybody's totally down with it. So I think you just have to remain flexible and expand. And if you see an opportunity to get face to face, if you will, I'm using air quotes because I don't know if we're doing a video blog here or not, take advantage of it.
Yeah, I like the approach. There's so many resources to use to get face to face with people, whether it's FaceTime, and the one thing I got to ask is the example you gave of the Zoom meetings of the kids running around laundry machine. I feel like that's almost a personal story at that point.
Well, yeah. So I mean, when is it not, right? So we have our rep group, we have a standing Friday morning call just to like chat about our week. It's just good. A lot of times you think of being a rep as a very social job and you're talking to people all the time, but it actually is pretty lonely because you're not, you don't report to an office. You have your customer network that, you have your network that you're comfortable with, and a lot of people that you're talking to at an entry level standpoint. But being a rep is actually kind of a lonely job. So it allows us every Friday to just chat and talk about our week struggles and what worked and what didn't and what we're seeing with our manufacturers. But it seems like, every time somebody's got the doorbell ringing or somebody's dropping something off, somebody's dog's popping up. Even my son, he's 2.5. He's always like, if I got to keep him home that day because the babysitter's sick or something like that, he's popping up in my lap, like looking at the screen, kind of like, who's that, daddy? Who's that? So yeah, you just got to roll with it. And I think it spices it up a little bit. It kind of lets you see behind the curtain a little bit of somebody and their home life, which personally for me, I mean, it makes me want to work with somebody more if you can kind of get to know them on a personal level.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed is that Amazon only delivers once you're on a live Zoom call. Only. I won't get a package anytime throughout the day unless I'm on a call or a recording or anything like that. It's the consistency of the past 2 years.
Spin zone, it's their marketing ploy. They want to know when you're available with other people, and you say, oh, that's the Amazon guy, and everybody in the back of their mind's like, shit, I should have ordered that from Amazon. And so they're instantly ordering. Oh man, Amazon's got it figured out, man.
They're doing something right. So you talked a little bit about just kind of the, what it's like working in a rep group. So if you were promoting working in a rep group to someone who has no idea that this industry even exists, what would be your approach on that?
It is kind of difficult to explain to somebody what a rep group is in the contract furniture world. And in fact, this weekend I was with some friends and they were like, so how's the new job going? And I'd say it's going great. And they're like, what is it that you do again? And so, you kind of have to go through the explanation of it. But what I always tell anybody, if you want to go into sales, working with a rep group, and I can speak to, my rep group specifically. And there's one thing to know about rep groups is that there's a million different ways to structurally set up a rep group, right? You can do it in just a multitude of different ways. But, the one with us is that, if you're confident in the way that you want to succeed and you feel pretty strongly about your ability to succeed in sales, your earnings potential is, unlimited for the most part. I mean, depending on how much you want to work. And for most people, they don't work for free. It's money is the motivator. So, if you're confident in your ability to do so, then this is a really good job for you, to set yourself up for, long-term financial success. That's a big one. And then two, I always tell people, depending on how you like to work, I'm not a micromanager. I look at your territory as your business. So, if you want to structure that the way that you think is going to be most successful for how you envision a successful territory to look like, by all means, go, dive right into it, full steam ahead. Just make sure you let me know what your plan is, so I kind of get an idea of what you're doing too. So really you kind of have the freedom to work as you want, just as long as you are working and working hard. That's all I ask.
I think the one word that comes back to that is flexibility.
You're exactly right. Flexibility and communication, right? I mean, that if there were two key words to take away from this podcast, it would be those two right there.
I think we might have to get Sid to on the YouTube video, just have the upper and under bolding of just flexibility and communication.
Flashing that bright yellow.
The moral takeaway of the conversation.
Yeah.
So we got time for about 2 more questions here. So the first thing I want to ask you is a little bit more personal, but what are some of your biggest goals being a part of this industry? So obviously taking over the rep group's really exciting. You got a lot of great things coming your way. What is your biggest goal from joining this industry? What is something you want to see either rep groups or just this industry as a whole kind of do moving forward? I'm going to put you on the spot there because we do not have that one planned.
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I would like to do with the rep group is just ensure that everybody in each one of my territories feels like they're succeeding, that they're excelling in their rep group or their territory, whether that's, expanding their network or increasing their income. That's the biggest goal for me, is to make sure that everybody feels like it's working in their respective territories. I don't think I've been in the industry personally enough to set aside some long-term goals with me. I want to make sure that my current venture is succeeding and that we're fulfilling our obligations to our manufacturers, and that our manufacturers feel like we're succeeding and we're working for them and everything's working out well, and then from there, we'll see where the opportunities kind of take me. It's just like you said, we're young. We've got a whole lot of life to live, and professionally speaking, there's going to be decades of opportunities coming about. So like I alluded to earlier, I'm not going to ever turn a conversation down, because you never know where it's going to go. And I'll just kind of see where that takes me. So who knows?
I like that. And some of the conversation pieces too, sitting down to have a conversation, not 100% sure, knowing what's going to come out of it, sometimes turns out to be some of the best conversations you have in that week.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately the ultimate goal is to set yourself up for long-term financial success or stability, right? Now, however you achieve that, who knows how you get there. I know that I enjoy working in front of the customers, and I've got a really great group of people that work for me at Stemle and Associates. So I want to make sure that they're all taken care of and that we're in a good spot moving forward. And then after that, as we have that maintained, we'll see what kind of growth opportunities come about.
So I want to end this off with a little bit of the mic drop question for the session. But what is something or one piece of advice that you'd like to leave to all of the listeners tuning into today's session?
One piece of advice for all of the listeners. Look me up on LinkedIn. No, I think, whether they're in the industry or outside of the industry, Never stop thinking about your next move. And I know that kind of contradicts what I just said about not knowing what my next goal is going to be, but always be thinking in terms of your growth and growth potential and what your next move might be. Because like we've alluded to, there's going to be a lot of opportunity, specifically for the younger generation of people in this industry. So don't be afraid to have a conversation with your supervisors or your superiors and say, what's it going to take for me to hop up on that next rung in the ladder in the corporate structure? What are you looking for me to achieve in the next 12 months so that, I can make sure that I'm growing in my current role? And identify maybe some areas of change that you'd like to see, and don't be afraid to voice those. This time in this industry right now is all about change. It's literally, we're doing nothing but changing. So if you want to see something changed, don't hesitate to say something to somebody and be the wind in the sail for that change. Maybe identify how you think it can change and start a movement. I mean, people are all about following line or understanding something that's going to change. There's just so much opportunity right now. So don't be afraid to speak up.
I like that. Almost challenge yourself to continue down your journey and try to fast track it as best you can. And that comes back to the passion. That comes back to the communication.
Exactly.
It's the consistency. But no, I think that's a good point to leave for not only the younger generation tuning into this, but for the older generation too, is really take some time to set up a plan that works for the people coming into your industry or coming into your company, and figure out how to almost focus on some of their best qualities and be able to put a plan around them that drives that. So I think you create a huge opportunity for everyone listening, and whether you're brand new to the industry, still not sure what contract furniture is, or someone who's been in the industry for multiple generations.
Yeah, well, specifically for the latter, somebody who's been in the industry for several decades, that's that. On the flip side, don't be afraid to sit down with somebody who's been in the industry for 12 months or 18 months or just came from a different industry and pick their brain. What did you like about your last job? Or since what kind of technological things that are you using that I'm not educated up on? Can you teach me? Can you tell me why it's an advantage and why you're using it? Don't be afraid to ask those questions. That's a two-way street of communication. Right. Yellow letters
Right there.
Right.
You took the words right out of my mouth. I think that's
Yeah.
the perfect way to look at it, is that, not only can the younger generation learn a lot from the people that have been here and seen success, but I think it can go the other way too, looking at how some of the younger people coming in, where their drive is, where they see opportunities. It's a great way to really broaden the view of how we can do business and how we can honestly plan for success and plan for a future.
That's right. Yep, I agree.
Well, Justin, thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming and helping me out on the podcast. And it's always been fun to have a conversation.
Yeah, the pleasure was all mine, Trevor. I appreciate it.
Well, for all the listeners, again, just a quick reminder, throughout the month of March, I was taking over the Trevor Report podcast. So if you're looking for more conversations with the next generation, please make sure you check out some of the recent and upcoming episodes. So thank you very much for your time. And thank you again, Justin.
Thanks, Trevor.